What's up, everybody? Nick back here with you from Project Central, and today I'm going to give you my 30 best tips plus a few bonus tips to help take you from a noob driveway mechanic to a pro driveway mechanic from Harbor Freight Tools. Also, there's some holidays coming up, so if you need some gift ideas, make sure to check all these out. But if there's anything you think I missed, let me know down in the comments, and let's get into that video. Today we're going to be talking about my top 10 basic recommendations for the driveway mechanic from Harbor Freight. Maybe you're just getting started out working on cars, maybe you're realizing that you are very capable of doing your own maintenance and saving a little bit of money, and especially in this economy. So here are my top 10 recommendations, and I'm going to include a bonus tip at the end, so stay tuned for that. Alright, first up is going to be just a basic set of sockets, wrenches, and some socket extensions. Nothing crazy, just a basic set with the most common sizes. Most vehicles nowadays use primarily metric fasteners. So those are going to be your millimeter scale fasteners. And that's what I would suggest investing in first. Unless, of course, you're working on something specific, old American muscle car or whatever. So, but if you're just getting started out working on a modern vehicle, metric tools are going to be what you want. Alright, and on those metric tools, make sure you get every size from 8 millimeter all the way to like 19 or 20 millimeters. So, and that will allow you to do almost every basic repair you're going to need to do. Also, another great investment while you're, stocking up on tools is a set of extensions. They have a couple different kinds, just the regular, different length of extensions. They have some that have a wobble head on them that are super trick, that may be a good investment. But they also have some that have a locking head. Those are the ones I like the most, because if you're really trying to get a socket way down deep into something, you don't want it like coming off at all. So there's a couple different brands. There's Pittsburgh and Icon. Both are good. I've had good luck with both. So just whatever your budget is on those. All right, next up, number 2. We've already talked about sockets and wrenches and stuff. Now we're going to talk about some basic hand tools. This is going to be screwdrivers, nut drivers, which is basically a screwdriver with a socket on the end of it, hammers, pliers, stuff like that. There are going to be tons of different types of fasteners. Sometimes you've got maybe like a little hose clamp you got to pull off. Maybe you've got just something you got to pry up, or whatever the situation may be. You're going to need more than just sockets and wrenches to do that. So investing in a good basic set of hand tools is great. Plus, you can use those for a million other projects around the house and, whatever else you're doing. And again, Harbor Freight has a bunch of different brands, all the way from like the multi-packs of, I'm going to say lower end tools, but they can work in a pinch, to, your single tools that are a little bit more expensive. But, again, pick your poison. All right, after we've been buying some tools for a while, we're going to need a place to put those tools. So, to start off with, I'm going to suggest just a basic little tool bag, right? Something to put, your sockets and wrenches in. Maybe you get a couple, one for like hammers and screwdrivers and like maybe more household generic tools, and then another one for like mechanics tools. Or maybe you just get one big one and throw it all in. I did that for a long time. Also, don't worry about ever outgrowing these, because these bags are so handy. I've got 5 or 6 of them in different vehicles, for tow straps, for roadside kits, I've got one set up just for tire stuff now. So they're very handy. It's a good investment, and they last a very long time, especially if you don't abuse them. So we've got some tools, we got a place to put them. Next, we're going to think about a little bit of safety. Not necessarily like hard hat safety, but more like convenience safety. And what I mean by that is, if you're under your vehicle, put some clear safety glasses on. You don't want crap falling in your eyes, even if it's just a little rock from the road, even if you have, whatever, or dirt or crap. You don't want that stuff in your eyes. So get some clear safety glasses, get some gloves, even if it's just a box of mechanics gloves, can definitely make it so much nicer when you inevitably get that phone call when you're elbows deep in an oil change or something like that. You're gonna have to scratch your nose. You're gonna have to take a phone call. So some gloves are great. They make a bunch of different varieties. They make the like mechanic style gloves that are disposable. They've also got like leather gloves and cut resistant gloves. And I definitely suggest investing in some of this stuff because when you get hurt and you're bleeding everywhere, you can't work on your car. So keep that in mind. At some point, every project, the lights go out. Sun goes down and you're still working on something, or the way your schedule fell, you have to work on it at night so that you can go to work the next day or go on a trip or go do whatever. And that's why you gotta plan ahead for some lighting. Basic flashlight is a great first option. If it's something quick, hey, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna diagnose this thing, see if I'm gonna fix it tonight. Little flashlight's perfect. Harbor Freight has a bunch of these. I've got some of the Bauer ones. They're pretty good. I like those. I just bought one of the little puck lights. I'd be excited to try that out. But my favorite type, we used to call them drop lights. I think they call them something else now. But they're basically a directional light that you can pull under the vehicle and shine around. The corded options are what I've used forever, but they make some battery ones now. And if you've already invested in some of the Harbor Freight battery systems, the Hercules or the Bauer systems, they make these battery flashlights, and they're pretty cool because they sit on their own and you can point them at whatever you're working on. So if you're underneath a car, you can point it and you have light. You don't need to, yell at your kids to point the flashlight where you need it to. So that's good, and those are some of my favorite options. All right, now that we're finally working on our vehicle, one of the most basic maintenance items we can do is an oil change. But there are a couple tools we need to invest in to do that. Oil change ramps, if you drive something that's low enough to the ground where you can't get under it, great investment. Oil drain pan, you got to put that oil in something that's going to catch it. And most importantly, like being able to catch the oil and then securely and safely dump that into another container, or be able to take that container to the auto parts store to dispose of the oil. You got to have something like that. You can't just go and get your wife's Tupperware. Ask me how I know. Not a good day. Also, I'm going to recommend getting some sort of oil filter wrench. They make a couple different kinds. They make they make like these round ones that go on the bottom of the oil filter. They make some that are like vice grips that clamp on, and there's some that are just like a big pair of pliers or whatever. Whichever variety interests you, definitely consider picking a pair up because I don't understand the science behind it, but after driving a few thousand miles, 5,000 or 6,000 miles, you got to do an oil change. Somehow that filter is just glued onto the block. It is unbelievable how tight they get. I know there's also some oil filter brands that have like a nut on the box, the bottom of it, where you can put a socket on it. So that may be a good option too. All right, another super common easy repair is going to be topping off your AC, right? Doesn't sound like a super easy repair, but it is. Here in Oklahoma, it's hot, like all the time. We run our AC year round, just about, because sometimes it's 100 degrees in the summer, sometimes it's 90 degrees in the winter. It just is like that. Who knows, right? But they make these AC all-in-one kit products where all you do is it's got a little push connector. You push that onto the low side of the AC. It only fits on one spot, so you put that on there. Follow the instructions and squeeze the trigger till the thing's in the green. It's super easy, super trick. And it could definitely save you a lot of money from going to a repair shop and them charging you $200 or $300 to do this. It's like a $40 can, and then once you've got the top part of it, you can screw other cans in. Um, so it's way cheap, way easy. I'd recommend you guys check that out if you need to top off that AC. All right, next up on the list is going to be a quality floor jack or scissor jack if you're on a tight budget, and some jack stands. These are going to be invaluable tools because if you need to pull a tire off, you need to get that vehicle lifted up off the ground, put some jack stands under it, lower it back down on those jack stands so that the weight is not on the jack. It's on something that is made to handle the weight in a static load. I've seen too many videos. I've had some close calls myself on jacks failing, and it's not good. It's not good. It's not safe. So definitely good safety practice is anytime you lift the vehicle up, throw some jack stands under it, even if it's only one. I wouldn't recommend that. I'd always recommend two, but having it so that the vehicle can't fall down and crush you. I mean, what else do I need to say, right? So invest in and Harbor Freight's got a bunch of good options. I've got the low profile, long reach one. When I was looking for that for my Jeep and trucks and stuff, that's just one that lifted the highest. So fortunately for me, it works on lowered cars too. If I ever get one, I'll use it for that. But for now, it works really good on the Jeeps and trucks and stuff. And I've had it for years, and it's doing great. All right, so we mentioned tires. So let's talk about some tire tools, right? We've all had flats. So let's invest in some basic tire tools. A small portable inflator for your tire, like runs off the 12-volt plug, or a small compressor at your house, just to air up some tires when you need to, can be a lifesaver. If you're a little low, also knowing how to and having the tools to, maybe pull a nail out and plug it just enough to get to the tire shop. If you ran over a nail, the nail comes out, and you've got a little hole. Being able to plug that with one of those cheap tire plug kits, just long enough you can actually get that to the tire shop. With modern vehicles running a lot of modern electronics, batteries die. Sometimes we leave the radio on because we're listening to it in the driveway. Sometimes we accidentally leave something on inside the car and it kills the battery. So having a decent set of jumper cables can really, 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 really save the day. All right, bonus tip time, and that is going to be one of the biggest money savers I've invested in recently, and that is going to be the Inside Track Club. So what is the Inside Track Club? They probably ask you every time you're at the counter, hey, are you part of the Inside Track Club? Do you want to be? Well, my recommendation is doing the 2-year plan. So normally it's $30 for 1 year, but if you do the 2-year option, it's $45 for 2 years. So the second year is half price basically. And the biggest advantage of this obviously is better savings. My wife and I bought a generator recently, and we saved over $100 just from the Inside Track Club. There was a normal coupon, and then the Inside Track Club coupon was twice as good. So we saved an extra 10%. Well, on a $1,000 purchase, it's over $100. So it paid for itself in that one purchase. So that means, don't tell my wife, that means I can go buy more tools, right? So if you are just getting started, if you're just getting started out, invest in the Inside Track Club first, in my opinion, because every other purchase down the road will save you a ton of money. It may be $40, $45 up front or whatever, but if you buy a nice $300 floor jack, you might save that $50 on that one purchase. So, stuff to consider. My top 10 recommendations for that intermediate level driveway mechanic. So let's get started. All right, so you've mastered the oil change, mastered the tire rotation, talked about those in the last video, and you're thinking to yourself, man, that alternator just went out. I can fix that. I need to take that to a shop. Maybe you're looking at a set of headers for your car and going, I can put those on, definitely. So whether you're doing brakes, suspension, or hopefully performance parts, this is the list for you. So let's get into it. First off, again, I'm going to have a bonus tip at the end of the video, and let me know down in the comments what I missed in this video. First up, you're working on stuff, you got to stock up on chemicals. WD-40, PB Blaster, Brake Clean, I use those on almost every job. There's something that needs broke loose, degreased, or cleaned up at the end of the job. Always, right? So, and Harbor Freight's got a good selection of this. Some of it's scattered throughout the store, it's not all together. So some of the chemicals, like, oils and stuff, like two-stroke oil is with like the gas cans, but then there's like Loctite and epoxies that are kind of off by themselves. And like some of the main automotive chemicals are kind of on the automotive aisle, or that end cap at my store at least. So the best way I like to stock up on these is wait till there's a really good coupon. A few months ago, they did a 30% off everything $10 and under. So I was at that store every day buying stuff. So yeah, that was fun. My wife was not happy, but it's the way things go on these big jobs. This item is going to be investing in those specialty automotive hand tools. Snap ring pliers, hook and pick set for pulling stuff out, seal puller, serpentine belt tool, stuff like that. There's going to be you might only use it once a year. You might only use it a couple times a year. You might only use it every 5 years. But if you've got it when you need it, it makes those jobs so much easier. And we are super, super blessed now, because when I started doing this, a lot of this stuff was tool truck only stuff. All right, as your repairs get more advanced, you're going to be under the vehicle more. Maybe you're doing performance stuff, like a set of headers. Having a good creeper where you can get under there, roll around. You're not scooching on your back. You're not laying laying in the dirt. So a good creeper is very, very good investment. I've got this green one. I've got the green, $40 one from Harbor Freight. It's been pretty good. I had a gray one for a long time until I ran it over on accident with the vehicle. Whoops. And had to replace it. So I've got the lime green one, and it's worked pretty good so far. I really enjoy it. And number 4 is going to be a good battery charger. Last video we talked about the importance of keeping jumper cables with you, and this time we're going to talk about having a good battery charger. Maybe you've only got one vehicle at the house and it's dead. Well, you're not going anywhere for a while, are you? So throw a battery charger on there. See if the battery can take a charge first off, because sometimes your battery won't take a charge, but you can jump the car and get it running, and the alternator will provide enough power to run the car and drive it. But as soon as you shut the car off, you're done. You're done, bud. All right, at some point, like me, you've bought so many tools that they don't fit in the bags anymore. All right, last video we talked about just having a couple small tool bags. Now we're moving up to the tool cart. The basic, like they've got the little two level cart. Those are pretty good. But the actual like service carts, those are pretty cool. If you are working in your driveway a lot, or even in your garage, having one of those that you can put your tools in, push it around wherever you need it, pretty cool. And they make that big like full bank tool service cart. I definitely want one of those just to push out into the driveway when I'm working on stuff. And I'd get it in purple for sure, because I don't know, looks cool. At some point we're going to be doing bigger jobs. You'll have that on these big jobs, right? So we talked about specialized hand tools earlier, but this item is going to be the specialized automotive tools. Stuff like the seal drivers, right? If you're having to reinstall a seal, they make a special tool that's different sized for tapping that seal in squarely. And this aisle, just walk down this aisle and just be like, oh my gosh, look at all these cool tools. Some of these are great to invest in. Like I invested in a set of McPherson strut coil spring compressors 10 years ago. They were $50, $50, $60 10 years ago. I invested in a set because, yes, they are made for McPherson strut, but they work great on all sorts of coil springs. So if I'm doing like suspension work and I don't have the vehicle on a lift. You take those strut compressors, you squish the spring down, and you can pull it out without the vehicle on a lift. You just put them like on jack stand stuff. Makes it easy. Next time you're making a bigger repair on your vehicle, walk down this aisle, see if there's any of these items that can help you. All right, here in Oklahoma, it gets hot during the summer and cold during the winter. And I'm sure wherever you're at, you have weather. That's how it works. So having some things to combat the weather for when you're doing stuff all day in the driveway can be an absolute lifesaver. Harbor Freight makes a couple different versions of these canopies. So there's canopies for like when it's really hot, just to get in some shade. They make fans that if it's still really hot, but having a little bit of breeze blowing you can really help. And then during the winter, they make a couple different varieties of heaters, right? There's the kind of the single and dual burner that kind of sit on top of the propane heater, the propane tank, or there's like the forced induction propane heater for like a small garage. That's what I'm looking at for this winter. So hopefully I can pick one of those up. They were out of stock the other day when I went to my local store, but I've got my eye on those. All right, no matter how much money we spend on our vehicles, they eventually break down. It's just facts of life. Things break. In this modern age, any vehicle newer than about 1997 should have what's called an OBD2 port, right? That's the port you plug in to talk to the computer. And hopefully that computer will tell you what is wrong with your vehicle. And you do that by having a code reader, or the fancier ones are called scanners, right? We don't need those yet. But just having a basic OBD2 reader to tell you to pull the codes and clear the codes off of your car is a great first step in diagnostics. A lot of times they'll give you the code, you just Google it, and it'll tell you what's wrong, right? O2 sensor out, NOx sensor, whatever it is, and then that will help you fix your car. So after that, a basic test light, just to see if you're getting power where you need to get power, and a multimeter. Both of those can be really good for figuring out if you've got, those are kind of the first step in diagnosing electrical issues. Next up, we need to start talking about some power tools. The first two power tools I would invest in are a drill and an impact driver. I would suggest purchasing these two first because you can do probably 50% of every job with one, right? It will help you spin nuts and bolts faster, at least getting things snugged up. Think of a valve cover, that has 10 or 15 little screws on it. You put a adapter on there for a socket, and you can go through and snug all those down a lot faster than you can doing it by hand. All right, if you're anything like me and you're constantly working in your driveway, that means you're constantly making a mess. Sometimes there's oil you left down. Sometimes it's like chunks of rust that have fallen off your car, or just dirt in your driveway. Having some cleanup tools can really make the next time you work in your driveway better, right? No one wants to lay down or be getting up and down off of the driveway if there's a big giant oil stain there. So keep a bucket of kitty litter. Harbor Freight, I don't think actually sells any like floor dry or oil absorb, so I just use cheap kitty litter. And then but they do have brooms, dustpans, trash bags, and like a pressure washer. I like investing in I've got a decent pressure washer that I bought from Lowe's like forever ago, and it's good every couple months to just wash down the driveway, get all the gunk and grime pushed away from the driveway, and have a kind of a fresh-ish start on getting the driveway dirty again. All right, bonus tip time, and that is going to be use the tool warranties, right? Harbor Freight has really stepped up their game over the last few years, and a lot of their hand tools, especially the sockets and wrenches and stuff, a lot of those have lifetime warranties now. And why not take advantage of that? A lot of times that's why we shopped at tool truck brands, is because of the service and the warranty. Craftsman used to be just about the only store brand that had a really good lifetime warranty, and now even Harbor Freight has stepped up their game. that whatever tools you pick up, they probably have a pretty good warranty on them for when you inevitably blow them up. But of course, always read the fine print. Make sure that whatever warranty you've got on your tools, that you know how to use it, and make sure, you know, if you break something, it's still covered under warranty. My top 10 recommendations for that advanced driveway mechanic from Harbor Freight. Maybe you're like me and you watch way too much Roadkill and Cletus McFarlane and you think I should put a turbo on everything. Maybe you're constantly searching Marketplace looking for crappy project cars to dump an obscene amount of money into. Can confirm. So here are my 10 recommendations, plus a bonus tip at the end for you. Alright, in no particular order, but first up is going to be air tools. A decently mid-sized air compressor, 20 to 30 gallons, right? You can do a lot with that. I know a lot of people have switched to all electric tools, and we'll talk about that later on. But having decent air tools can really increase productivity, I think. Not having to worry about dying batteries, and just the sheer volume of air tools that they have at the Harbor Freight store. There's practically a whole aisle of air automotive tools. So whether you're doing heavy suspension work, you need like a 3/4 inch impact with a bazillion foot-pounds of torque, or you're doing like auto body work, you need a little detail sander. Everything in between, they've got it there, and you can all run off the same compressor. And a lot of times, some of those tools are pretty affordable. I know the little cheap paint gun, usually you can get that on sale for like $10 for spraying panels and stuff. I've had one of the Harbor Freight impact wrenches for a long time. It has served me well for very many years, and every once in a while, even though I've switched to a bunch of electric tools, I still will bust that thing out if I'm doing a lot of like real heavy suspension work, because it just has a ton of power, and you know it's worked well for a long time. If you're doing a lot of mechanic work, eventually you're going to have a rusty, crusty bolt snap off in a frame or a bracket or something. But my favorite way to do it, especially if it's like in a frame, is you take a nut, you weld it on, it gets everything nice and hot, and you just spin that bad boy right out. So the number 2 suggestion for the advanced driveway mechanic is going to be a welder. You know, a small stick welder, a decent MIG welder. This is going to not only allow you to remove, you know, broken bolts and stuff, or a stud that you can't remove. You know, being able to remove that stuff is great, but it also opens up a whole nother world of fabrication for making your own brackets, making your own like suspension tabs, anything like that. Axle swaps, engine swaps. Definitely consider that. And Harbor Freight has some great welders. They've really stepped their game up. Okay, by this point, you got a ton of tools. Like a lot of tools. Like a lot of tools, right? Like you've never met a tool you didn't like. Ask me how I know. So we're going to need a bigger box. Harbor Freight has kind of made a name for themselves on their U.S. General boxes. They're good, especially for like home, you know, prosumer level / you know, advanced DIYers like us. We collect tools. Collect a lot of them. I've had this Harbor Freight top and bottom 44-inch box. It's a Series 1. I've had it for probably 12 years now. I need some more stickers on it because I kind of ran out of stickers. But yeah, it does great. It holds all the tools I need. Hand tools, mechanics tools. I don't have any power tools in that. They're separate. But yeah, it does a great job. I've really got my eyes on that 56-inch box with that hutch on top. Ooh, yeah, I've got my eyes on that one. Maybe someday though. But for now, I'm gonna keep using this 44-inch box because it has served me well for so long. And you know, there's tons of options now. They've got the Icon boxes, which are super nice, and those would literally probably last a lifetime. But just their basic US General boxes. They've got so many modular accessories for those. They've got the side lockers. They've got the side cabinets. They've got all the other accessories that you could magnet onto them. They're really cool. So check those out if you are overflowing with tools, because I've really enjoyed my set. All right, so we've talked about, your basic sockets and wrenches and stuff, and your other videos. You've talked about more advanced, more specialty hand tools, but I'm going to call out one tool specifically that we should invest in as advanced mechanics, and that is going to be a set of torque wrenches. Recently, I put some valve train back together in my Jeep, and I used this Pittsburgh 3/8 Pro. Those are all the valve train components are set at 20 foot-pounds. Well, if you're doing stuff like engine work or differential work or anything like transmission work, anything that's like a critical part of your engine or driveline or vehicle that you don't want to break down at the worst time, we need to take a little bit extra care. And even if we're doing it in the driveway, doesn't mean we have to be sloppy, right? So yeah, consider investing in a set of torque wrenches. Like I said, I've got the old click style torque wrenches, but I know that those Icon ones also have a really good review also, some of the fancier ones. All right, at the start of this video, we talked about how good air tools are, and they are. I will stand behind that statement for forever. But, caveat, electric tools have really had their comeuppance, right? They've done really good. I mean, Harbor Freight has an entire two bay selection of everything from their Mondo crazy mega 1500 foot-pounds of torque battery tools all the way down to their 12 volt cordless ratchets, and they've all got their purpose. These are great options for especially if you're going out, you don't want to fire up the air compressor, wait for it to charge, drag a hose out. If you're just going out and doing a couple things like changing a tire or pulling a transmission or pulling suspension components off, an electric impact, they are revolutionary technology in my opinion. They have really, really made it awesome for us driveway guys. Not only can you do it, it's easy at your house, but if you go to the junkyard, you've got battery tools now. And a lot of times they used to not let you take anything. Having battery tools to take to the junkyard to pull parts, awesome. Love it. All right, next one may be a little bit of an oddball tip, but I use it every once in a while when I'm doing some projects, and that is going to be a rivet gun and or a riv nut gun. So rivets are awesome because if you're trying to attach something like a blind rivet, you drill a hole through two pieces, stick that rivet in there, hit that gun, and poof, they are attached. You don't have to get to the back side, and if you've got a panel that you need to be removable, but you can't get to the back side if you can't reach around to put the nut and bolt together, a riv nut is really cool. So basically how it works is you have threaded inserts that you drill a hole, you put it in, and you smush them like a rivet, but the inside has threads. Most commonly I use the 1/4x20. That's a good size, and you can buy those fasteners really cheap. So like here on the side of my Jeep, I riv nutted all these on so that this panel, if I ever need to, I can remove this piece of rear quarter panel armor, and it it's pretty cool. Right, so yeah, if you want to do something a little bit more trick, some removable panels or some fixed panels with rivets, invest in those. A couple of the products that I think Harbor Freight is actually really known for and has made a great name for themselves in the automotive world is going to be their cherry pickers and engine stands. The folding cherry picker has become a staple in a lot of shops, right? Even if you're not doing engine work, it's great for picking up heavy axles, picking up, chunks of metal or like an anvil or whatever, picking stuff up, moving it around. And the engine stands, I've seen people make rolling tubing bender stations with those engine stands. Pretty sweet. If you're pulling an engine, rebuilding an engine, whatever you're doing, stuff like that, these cherry pickers, these fold up ones are really cool. and the engine stands. I've used the engine stand. My engine stand, I've used it before when we rebuilt one of my Jeep motor in my Jeep, and works great. And now they have these super cool gear-driven ones that you can bolt your engine on, and it's got a gear you can turn in the back to rotate it, so you don't have to manually rotate it and try and flip it over. So very cool, very trick, and definitely check those out. All right, earlier in this video we talked about tool organization, right? We talked about toolboxes. This section is going to be more about parts organization. Parts and leftovers, and probably some consumable organization. Eventually, you're going to get leftover nuts and bolts that you're going to want to save because you're going to use them. Obviously, you're going to use the bucket of leftover bolts from 17 years ago. You're going to save those, and you're going to use them on something. Why would you throw them away? The factory spent millions of dollars designing these cars. We should save the bits and bobs. But you got to be able to find that stuff. We've all got that miscellaneous bucket of bolts that every once in a while we dump it out and pick through it, find stuff. But you're like extra spark plugs, extra fuel hose clamps, all of those things that are kind of leftovers or miscellaneous or stuff you might use every once in a while. You got to figure out a way to organize that stuff, because you will eventually need it and not be able to find it, and it's just going to cost you more money in the long run to go to stop what you're doing, go to the store, get what you need, and come back. It's an hour for me to go to the hardware store every time. By the time I stop, push some stuff back in the garage, close it up, it's an hour. So yeah, having some stuff on hand that's organized can be a great time saver. A lot of times when we're working on old, rusty, crusty junk, there can be years or decades worth of grime and dirt and oil buildup that we need to remove so we can work on the car. Or maybe you're putting like an engine back together and you just need everything to be clean so that when you put it back together it's not going to blow up on you. Whatever the case, we always seem to be needing to clean parts, and for this we've got a few different options. We've got the most basic would be some brake clean and a wire brush, or brake clean and some sort of brush. Next up, we've got like a parts cleaner. I've got an old red one. They're gray now for some reason. They changed the color, but these are cool because you can put all your solvents in there, and then it's got a little pump that you can spray and scrub. They do pretty good. There's also some vibratory tumblers, right, for like nuts and bolts. You can throw it in there with some media and it'll clean those up as well. But my favorite that I found so far is the ultrasonic cleaner. These things are like magic. I don't understand how they work. I know that there's some sort of ultrasonic frequency that explodes the water next to a surface, and it'll remove all the dirt and grime and stuff. I've done diesel injectors. I've cleaned diesel injectors, and they work amazing for that. And I've also recently cleaned all my valve train parts I talked about earlier, putting back together my Jeep. And it's like magic. I don't know how it works, but it works so well. So consider picking up, whichever parts cleaner system you like, or all of them like I did. All right, last up, this one feels kind of like a cop-out making this list, but there's just a lot of different interests in the automotive world, auto sports world, let's say. You may be a Jeeper like me, so you may be interested in the Harbor Freight winches and off-road lights and recovery gear. That's awesome. They've got a great selection of that. Maybe you're into motorcycles. They've got stuff. They've got motorcycle lifts, motorcycle wheel chocks, stuff like that. Maybe you're into detailing. They've got a whole product line of buffers and polishers and detail-oriented stuff. Even we talked about creepers in the last list. They've got detail-specific creepers, like a little padded seat you can roll around and keep all your detail stuff in front of you. So whatever you're into, I believe Harbor Freight probably has some pretty cool products that you should check out. All right, time for a bonus tip, and that is going to be consider getting the Harbor Freight credit card. And as always, be strategic about this. You get 10% off your first purchase. So if you're able to wait for a good sale on, say, a big toolbox, then you can use that Harbor Freight credit card to also get an additional 10% off of the sale price. And that can be a ton of money, especially on some of the big purchases that are over $1,000, right? A top and bottom box and some tools, easy $1,000. So consider that Harbor Freight card. And also, after the first sale, you can always choose 0% interest or 5% cash back. So if you're buying a lot of stuff at the store, like I do, or you're like maybe running a small mechanic shop, it'll pay for itself in the long run, for sure. And that 0% interest is way better than the 18 to 20% interest that a lot of other cards charge. So anyways, hopefully that saves you some money. I appreciate you all for watching. Let me know what you think of this list down in the comments, and I'll have another video here that goes somewhere. I don't know what it's going to be. And a subscribe button, I think. Maybe they're switched. Who knows? But I appreciate you all. And do what you always do. Take care of one another. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.